Hello and welcome to Macro Mondays here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is January 6th, 2025, and we're looking at Bitcoin as we usually do here on the daily chart to start with. And we see that Bitcoin has broken this downtrend here on the daily and got a nice move back to the upside here. Fulfilling some of what we talked about on Friday. We did see the low set last week, and it came on, one of many drives of hidden bullish divergence. And we were looking for the possibility of a low being set, but we wanted to see this lower high here get taken out on a closing basis. This lower high was coming in around 99,900, so basically $100,000. And if Bitcoin did close above there, we were looking for it to head up into our green zone up here, basically $101,000 to $104,000 by this 1272 Fibonacci pull here. This is the bear market fib extension, so the $69,000 to $15,500 rundown. We have an extension on that. We have come up to a few key areas here at 88,700 on the daily. And then, of course, the 103,645 here. And, of course, we've seen deviations of these areas, but we're looking for strong closes to start, updating targets. It's only one aspect of our evaluation of price here, right? So we have now broken the downtrend. From here, what we need to see is not just a little bit of a swing high to swing higher low, so swing lower high to swing higher low to swing higher high. We want to see a closing higher low from here, wherever this puts a high in. We need to see when price does come back down, we need to see a closing higher low as it relates to the most recent low here. So this is our downside risk, our invalidation of potential uptrend forming as it stands right now. And that's coming in at 91,271. Warning shot across the bow for bulls is if Bitcoin does drop all the way back down. Of course, losing major moving averages like the basis band, which is a 20 simple, wouldn't be great. If it does head back down outside of this $101,000 area, where we have previously found this area as resistance, we got a shorter term time frame, flip from this resistance into support that propelled Bitcoin up to this 108,388 all-time high. But upon retesting this area, it fell apart. And then, of course, Bitcoin moved to the next big area of support. This is where we had previously seen resistance and found this area as support multiple times on a close, open, and a swing. Get a little bit of a front run a couple times here, and then finally a dip back into this red zone. So, Bitcoin's still kind of playing out what we talked about on Friday. After getting the bounce off of here, running back to the top side around the green zone. Now, something that has changed a little bit here is that we saw the compression to the start of expansion to the upside, deviation of the highs over here, and then a dump back down to support. And we did not see continued expansion to the downside. We did get the bands moving around, a little bit of an expansion phase, but nothing closing outside of the lower second standard deviation, of course, and dropping the support zone to expand down to kind of the danger zone down here for the bulls. Same thing when we first started to move back to the top side, we had to be cognizant of this resistance overhead where the upper second standard deviation is, but we did get a close outside of this. And you can see that as Bitcoin mean reverted back to the bands here and started to work its way from the Sunday candle into the Monday candle, we actually got a nice pinch because we were just right around the basis band of the Bollinger Bands in this case. And Bitcoin decided that it was going to go up and take out that upper second standard deviation. So we do have volatility expansion. We can see that our BBWP metric, which is measuring volatility as it relates to the bands, it is direction neutral. But in general, if you're seeing expansion to the upside, you're seeing it above the basis with the confirmation of volatility expansion rather. So because it's above the basis, it's to the upside for expansion, below the basis, downside expansion. Now that does not always hold true. It depends on how expanded the bands are and what position they're in for contraction to expansion or expansion to contraction, that kind of stuff. We'll get into that stuff on the Learn TA with Landy's on Tuesdays with Peace Love Music over there at Deorganized. So I will be there with Peace tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern. And I will be covering stacks and Bitcoin, going through what I had taught in the first 4 live streams there for trend, support and resistance, volatility and momentum, my 4 keys to breaking down charts and performing TA, that we can then begin to formulate our thesis for price action and direction and areas of interest. And then, of course, we can build a trading plan around those particular areas of interest. And in this case, join me tomorrow on Tuesday. I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the particulars about utilizing volatility metrics. But because we got to close above the upper second standard deviation, this is now a slight bit of expansion into this resistance, right? And in fact, we didn't see any closes above these little wick highs here at around 102,500, 102,600 area, 102,650 in this case, where we did get, a lot of wicks thrown in this area from 3 daily candles to the upside that were all bearish rejections. Now, if Bitcoin, which you can see just tested up here in this green zone and right around where these swing highs are coming in the lower term timeframes at that 102, just above there, that 102,650 area. Above there, we're looking for 104. Above 104, we're looking for the close open up here, and any closes above the upper third standard deviation, we're looking at expansion kicking off in a more aggressive way above a primary resistance level. So we can target right back to the 106 to 108. Above there, I would target 108 to 110, 110 to 112, 112 to 115, 115 to 120, 120 to 125, 125 to 128 to 130, which, by the way, would be right here at the 1414, which is 41.4% above the $69,000 prior cycle all-time high. So a pretty key level to pay attention to. And one of the big things is we can actually get a little bit of a range fib pull for this current structure. So let's go ahead and get rid of the actual support resistance zones and the fibs here, because we're going to pull a new fib for this downside move within this structure just to see what an extension would look like back above the all-time high from high to low, simple pull. And we can see that we have a few key targets overhead for an extension from here above the 108. I've mentioned 108 to 110. So 106 at basically the close open to the wick high at 108. 108 to 110, 110 to 112. You can see that there's the 1.168, not 618, but 1.168 or 16.8% above the high over here would put Bitcoin at around our 111,500 level. Now this is pretty interesting, and I think it is worth pointing out that if we were to pull this structure back here, this consolidation structure for the entire structure, not just one move within it, but the entire structure, you'll see that there is a 2-spot extension right there at that 111,000 to 111,500, like the local structure that we just pulled. So taking this bearish move down, we do have a common area of interest. So again, above 110, I'd be looking to 112 or so, to run that 2-spot or that 1.168 extension from this local area. And above there, we're looking, like I said, I'd be looking like 115. Here there is an area of interest, at the 1414 at 116, almost 400 there, 116,383. And then the big $120,000 area. And this is going to depend on your chart, to be quite honest. Some of these numbers, I am using Coinbase Spot. I will always use Coinbase Spot. This is going to be my reference for price. This is the price that, Bitcoin is being obtained at, or the price reference Bitcoin is being obtained at by the authorized participant that is, issuing creation units for the ETFs and redemption units and stuff like that. So, above there, we've got 125. at the 1786. We've got a 1888 on here at 124. I'm sorry, basically 124 to 126 between the 1786 and the 1888. So basically $125,000 above that 120. And then we've got the two spot at the 128,700 level, almost $129,000. Again, very, very interesting, right? So if we were just going to go and make an absolute god-awful mess of our charts, what we can see is we have some overlap from this local structure and the bear market Fibonacci extension area of interest, and that's coming in at that 1414 is from the bear market extension, and then the two spot is from our local extension. So that is, a pretty confluent area of interest, and that's really all we're looking for is confluence. And we can also add on to this confluence by utilizing the Bollinger Bands on higher term timeframes, right? So let's go ahead and turn this off again. I think we've beat this horse to death, and I think that it's probably worth looking at this particular fib extension. and yes, this is something to pay attention to. Is and sorry about the coughing. I'm still recovering from the flu, but this time I didn't get so bad that you couldn't understand me when I had the flu, so I was just a little sick. We have this 618 of this move down at 101,500. Again, that's basically where all these close opens were coming in. That was our green zone around the 101, just slightly above the 101 area. We'd like to see Bitcoin hold above there and the upper second standard deviation by close today to get that continued expansive look to the upside here on the Bollinger Bands. The upper second standard deviation is at $102,000. So upper third, slightly above our 786 here at 104,474. So basically 104,500. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And then up there you can see the close open coming in right at an 88.8%. So 888. And realistically, if Bitcoin were to come back down, where do I want to see it hold? We have some confluence. We have the upper first coming in right there at the 50% level, which is also the close open high. So retest, back down. If it's going to do so, I want to see it holding this high. And preferably, hold above around that 99,500 to $100,000. That would look really good. And holding that upper first standard deviation, and of course that coming in line with that fib level at the 50% Fibonacci level. So that is something that I think is important. Now, realistically, like I said, invalidation, this is a trend break, so we're looking for higher lows. Man, I'm at that stage where you're recovering and your throat gets all dry and itchy and scratchy, and it's just terrible, and I'm sorry. But as it stands right now, I'm looking for higher low equal low structure no matter what. And you can see that, even if Bitcoin came down to the 382 here at 97,500, although I wouldn't be thrilled with it from the bulls, because they have the chance to kick off some expansion back to the all-time high. And, but, it's still being higher low territory above the basis band and right around that 382, which is just, you flip the fibs and it's a 618. So that's why these are golden. But yeah, the invalidation is down here at that 91, 200 and something. Is this pulled right? Let's get that right. 91, 271 by the lower second standard deviation. So anyway, let's go ahead and stop beating this horse. We'll look at some higher term time frames. Let's finish up this daily first. Let's get a wrap on this one. Let's go ahead and look at where we talked about this, hitting the edge of the bullish control zone. And we did see that. And of course, Bitcoin did kind of wick in there. Now, we want to see Bitcoin playing in this zone and kind of holding this zone or getting continuation higher. It's not out of the woods for, the possibility. So it'll avoid any kind of bearish divergence. but it can still throw bearish divergence from over here. You will see that populate, or it will be technically valid off of the structure over here from when Bitcoin was in its expansive phase up to the $90,000 to $108,000 area, all those highs. But what we're really looking for is not just the bearish divergence from over here. We did have a trend change, right? We had a downtrend. So what I'm looking for is in this area of RSI for the for bearish divergence to form. Any other kinds of bearish divergence from any of the other structure, whether regular or hidden, at this point, I would view it as corrective. So if you do see it populate, you do see a high and it's on bearish divergence, again, we're still looking for higher low, equal low structure to get excited about a trend shift back to the upside, not just a pump. Daily stochastic, you can see that it busted on through from close to the new day. It was right on our trendline regression. Of course, remember this is a regular Stoch, not a Stoch RSI. We already used RSI, so we looked at the relative strength index. We don't need to use a Stoch RSI. Stoch RSI is just the velocity of the RSI that we just looked at. So instead, we're using a regular Stoch, which is close over close price momentum. We can see that this is up. It is right there now, just starting to enter with the K read into the overbought zone. Now, typically you'll see the biggest moves occur in either the overbought zone or the oversold zone. And it can stay up here for an extended period of time, just like it can stay down here for an extended period of time. Now, the momentum pivot is what we're interested in here, because that's actually all the way down at 97,300. If Bitcoin does have a red day, that will aggressively update after yesterday's or Monday's big up candle. A nice almost $4,000 candle to the upside. So very, very nice stuff there from Bitcoin. Thank you very much. It was a great trading day. It's been a great, geez, what are we on? Where's our 7-day people at? We've got 4. That was 7 days. It's going to turn. Look, I mean, if it continues for another 3 days, it'll be fun as well. A little red day wouldn't bother me either, as long as it's holding structure. If it doesn't put in a high, I'm not that concerned either. But where would it put in a high? It would have to retrace yesterday's candle to actually put in that high. Otherwise, we look to wherever this candle closes. If it is a candle closes today on Tuesday, and then wherever the next day closes, we look at, does it close under the Tuesday's low? Then we'll see a high painted. But other than that, looks good. Looks good. And then quite honestly, if this move does result in either swing higher low structure or closing higher low structure, and gets continuation to past the all-time high, I'm probably looking around $120,000 if it does get expansion, because of the way that we have this compression. This is still considered, this is like a ranging look on the bands right now, but if it does get that full expansion, especially past the all-time high, I think still taking it like 2K at a time initially, and then the bigger jumps for the potential targets up to $120,000, I think is fair game. And then of course, we need to see higher low structure created and maintained. Let's go ahead and take a look at that weekly. That weekly did recover and of course close above the upper first standard deviation, and you might recall what I was saying about that. Now we're playing between the upper first and the upper second in terms of volatility levels of interest. If we do at any point see Bitcoin trading back below the weekly upper first standard deviation, which we're just going to call $97,000, it's almost $97,000 over there, then that would look bad. We're probably testing down a little bit further. Not a guarantee, but probably testing down a little bit further, even if it's just a wick. But for right now, it's all about what's to the left of price. Major area, of course, 104,500 on the weekly close open to the all-time high at 108,000, almost $400. Above there, the upper second standard deviation is what we got to pay attention to, and that's right around $114,000. What I will tell you is that if Bitcoin continues to push up higher on the weekly intra-week, meaning that while this weekly candle is open, you will see the bands ever so slightly react to price. So this is $114,000 or $114,350 or so. If Bitcoin continues towards it, it's likely going to be around $115,000. Just like right now, the upper first is right there at just around $97,000. This will drop slightly below $97,000. Slightly below into the mid $96,000 area if we did see this candle turn red this week. So just be aware of that. We still are in an expansive phase on the bands, and we are seeing that price volatility is in a cool down or consolidation between the upper first and upper second. That's reflected with the BWP look down there. Nothing much to be made of there. We still have downside stochastic momentum here on the weekly. You can ignore this daily trendline regression. All we care about is that number there. And that is $105,700. That is the momentum pivot for this week. And that does mean that if Bitcoin were to close above it, that would turn the K back up over the D read within the bullish controls. I'm sorry, not the bullish controls, on the overbought zone of the stochastic momentum indicator here. Now, even if it closes up and it doesn't meet that criteria, but if we get a nice green candle next week, it's the pivot that's probably more attainable. If it doesn't meet it this week, or if this candle turns red, this will just continue to drop. Again, we have to be cognizant here on the weekly of the last high put in on the weekly. Of course, this is the actual all-time high weekly candle structure. If Bitcoin puts any kind of a higher high in but lower high on RSI, we need to be very cognizant that that would be a first drive of regular bearish divergence rather for this now possibly complete structure, because we could see a weekly low closed this week as well. But that's for the future, right? Whenever we see the next high, it would have to be a higher high. And if it is a lower high on RSI, we would see regular bearish divergence for this current trend. Any previous bearish divergence that is populating off of this structural downtrend here is not what interests me the most. We have a higher high, higher low, higher high, potential higher low here. It would be in trend bearish divergence is the most powerful. Now, that does mean that if Bitcoin closes anywhere above around $100,000 or $99,900 here on Coinbase spot price, then it will set another higher low. And that's actually what we've been looking for and what we've been talking about. Of course, when you set a higher low like that, if it hasn't already moved back to the highs, that's the next logical target around that 104, 445, and then the 108, 388, and then possibly continuation to that upper second, which would be updating more aggressively to the upside. Let's go ahead and look at the monthly again and remind ourselves of where some of the key areas are. You see the upper third standard deviation is above our upper second, which Bitcoin is testing now. Do you remember what I said? I want to see Bitcoin closing the monthlies back above the upper second and even above the upper third. Otherwise, I fear that they might act as volatility areas of interest as a kind of cap on price overhead. Now, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't just grind sideways and up and keep doing that, but that would, kind of stifle some of that whole parabolic nature of the bull market that we've been looking for in terms of price action breaking out of the bands here for expansion. Now, the upper third is there at just under $125,000. So, of course, I'm looking at like 120 as the possibility if we see structure develop on the daily and maintain to the upside. Take out 104 and run the local highs and higher, or the all-time high and higher. I think that 120 is absolutely an attainable number from there through the rest of this month. And then obviously we see that the upper third standard deviation is right there at 125. And that's also one of the key areas I've talked about and shown you on the fib levels. And then of course, then we're looking at that 128, 130, where we saw that confluence between the local fib pull and the prior cycle monthly bear market fib pull extension. So, by the end of this month, we want to see Bitcoin closing above this upper second at minimum. Um, I do fear that we're just going to update this right to the key areas, and then we're going to keep tagging it and screwing around. But we will see how things go. One of the things that I am looking for on the monthly is for volatility to actually kick off in earnest again. And that might be possible by the end of the month. If we close a green candle, especially above the upper second standard deviation, we'd go from this contraction phase of as Bitcoin relates to the bands to another expansion. Of course, we would have to see it cross over the moving average, January into February, and then get continuation February into March to turn that moving average around with it for confirmation on some longer term time frames, and might I think the word is assuage some fears. I might be saying that wrong, but basically kind of calm some of the fears about the first to second quarter stuff, and even some stuff that I've speculated on that we have to watch out for first and second quarter of this year. Again, we're looking at some key areas. If Bitcoin, which did close the quarterly above its upper second standard deviation, starts to push towards its upper third, you will see this update throughout the quarter, by the way. That's likely going to end up right around $120,000 as Bitcoin turns green and heads up, or is green and heads up to the upside here. So a lot of stuff to keep in mind. This has been your Macro Monday price analysis and chit chat by myself here. For those that are new, again, and I would suggest that you come through on Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I will be reposting the Deorganized event where we have our Learn TA with Landy series with Peace, Love, Music. And we do have that archive. Peace has so kindly archived that on the brand new YouTube channel over there that he is now building out. There is a playlist that has the episodes that I've had previously there, but more importantly, it has the first key episodes, the first 4 where I teach each one of the subjects, or I walk through the fundamentals of, essentially trend, support and resistance, volatility and momentum. So, and how, the first 3 create the fourth, and what each one of them is, and my thought process on confluence between all of those things. And yeah, and then everything since then has been putting what I was teaching in those first 4 videos into practice. So I hope to see you there tomorrow. I hope that you go and you watch some of those, some of the back catalog to understand what this is. Even if you already are pretty adept with technical analysis, there's things that we got to go back and look at again sometimes. So feel free to take a look at it and find where maybe your system has confluence with mine. So have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out. Take care.